I gotta say, I love the concept. You're doing a great service to this industry, so I'm super excited to be here.
Creating a podcast video series that focuses on the amazing stories within our space. Hey, contact center, customer experience friends, welcome to episode 4 of Origins and Journeys. We're excited to have my friend and longtime industry expert, Jim Iyoob, joining us today. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you so much for having us. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. We've been all waiting and jazzed about this one. So as always, Origins and Journeys' intent is to inspire the next generation of CX and contact center professionals through telling stories of amazing people like Jim, like our last couple of guests, Dan and Anthony, and their journeys and sharing how they got into the space, some of the things they went through, trials, tribulations, learning, stuff like that. And even if we can inspire one person to really commit to learning and developing their skills in this space, then we've done our job. There'll never be a sales pitch on O&J. We're not here to sell anybody anything. Guests are giving up their time, to get behind the same message. So, and just so you know, before anybody asks after this, the content is free for the audience to use. I've been asked a couple of times, can we share your content out with classes or upcoming, groups of agents? Absolutely. You don't have to ask permission. I appreciate it. So we always want to hear from you, but you don't have to ask permission. Please feel free. The intent, again, is to inspire the next generation. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Follow Jason, Aarde, myself, Jim on LinkedIn. We all put out a tremendous amount of content and spend a lot of time, giving value back to the industry. So without further ado, Mr. Iyoob, how'd you get into this crazy contact center world?
Well, it's been a great story, but first let me thank you again for putting me with my friend Aarde and Jason. It's been forever since we've talked in person. So this is the next best thing. Hopefully in 2023, we could actually spend some time together in person. But to answer your question, I'm a kind of a call center guy. I mean, I will date myself. But when I started, I was an agent. And it's pretty funny because I had green screens, which 50% of your audience probably doesn't know what that is. But I worked for a great guy, Matt Rocco, who's the president and CEO of Etech today. He gave me my first opportunity as a call center agent for a little company called Dun & Bradstreet. Lo and behold, we both left Dun & Bradstreet, came to Etech. I've been here for 22 years. I've worked in a variety of roles, everything from implementation to ops. I mean, I'm technically an ops guy. And I think over the years, how we became successful, like what you're going to talk about, there wasn't a lot of tools out there to actually help me run ops the way I thought it should be run. Younger in the business, looking at things. And fortunately for me, I've been with Matt for over 30 some years now in my career. And I had an idea and I said, man, listen, there's just nothing out there in the market that does what we want to do to drive performance and improve. So I said, I'd like to build one. And that's pretty much how we got into all this stuff we're going to talk about today. So we built an engine. We have a bunch of customers on it. I know we're not selling, but we're just talking about it. And the difference in most people that I show it to and talk about AI, because I'm very passionate about the experience. I don't care if you're selling rafts. At the end of the day, the only differentiator you have between us going to you or somebody else is how you treat that customer. Okay. And the whole model, which we've done from day one, like listening to a couple calls, it doesn't work, right? You have to look at a big data. You have to use that data to make decisions, and you have to be able to coach and develop people to make an understanding that they are extension to that brand. So since I left ops, I head up all the CX, head up all the customer stuff. And that's pretty much, where I got to today. It's free content. Matt Rocco and I published 3 books on quality, future contact centers, delivering customer experience that matters. Again, it's free as well. I encourage everybody to go read them. They're not the 50,000-page books. They're very small, short reads, but it's all about how you build your career. I just love what I do every day. And they tell you when you love what you do every day, it's not really a job. So that's a little bit about me.
So don't jump too far ahead. I want to stick with your origin story, man. So you started out as an agent at Dun & Bradstreet with your future CEO and partner. And what was he doing? What was Matt doing at the?
So he was actually, I think, a director at the time. I was just an agent.
Okay.
And it's funny because I worked for Matt for about 9 months. And then there was an opportunity to go to a different Dun & Bradstreet site. I went down, I remember, because he helped me. I interviewed for this position that was definitely like probably 4 levels above of where I should be. And they didn't give me the job, but the guy called me back. His secretary called me back and says, listen, you report to work on whatever. And I said, but I didn't even say I was going to accept it because it was a different role. And he said, you'd be happy, so just come down. And then I started in Dun & Bradstreet's Solution Center, which was all inbound. I mean, that's as an advanced agent selling products, but that's where it started. And then to tell you the next one, then Matt Rocco was my mentor for years at Dun & Bradstreet, even though I didn't work for him anymore. And I remember going out for dinner, my wife, him and his wife, and he's told me he's going to Nacogdoches, Texas. And I said, where the heck's that? And he says, you'll find out. So in 30 days, he flew me and my wife down, hired me on the spot. He was a director of the Berry Companies. It was an internal call center for Bell South. I was hired as an account leader. We had one site, 400 employees in Nacogdoches, Texas. 2 years after we got here, Bell South decided to divest of all the assets of that company. So luckily for me, Matt, as the entrepreneur that he is, he found an investor. We took the company private. And today, Etech operates in 3 countries, 10 sites, and 3,600 employees with no mergers, no acquisitions, no venture capitalists. So it's been a great journey, to say the least.
That's awesome. So what was the timeline between starting on the phones and actually getting into leadership?
Yeah, so I started in the 90s with Dun & Bradstreet. As I think I did call center as an agent for about 6 months. And then I was a leader. Then I had ideas, which I love ideas. As you guys, for those of you who know me, I love always revolutionize. I actually created and helped get Dun & Bradstreet to set up one of their inside sales channels because I used to be a sales rep field, being outside talking to people. Well, it cost $300 back then every time you went to visit a customer. I used to hate the traffic. So I said, I could do this over the phone. And I remember these guys at D&B say, well, okay, smarty pants, if you're so good, then do it. And then we actually created inside sales for sell Dun & Bradstreet contracts. Then I headed up those team of salespeople. And then I found there was a problem with activating. So I was selling so much business and the customers weren't getting serviced. I created an activation team. I was featured in the 1997 annual report for Dun & Bradstreet, which was cool. That was my claim to fame. I did all that stuff, as did management. And then I ended up going to work for Murray Hill, which is where their headquarters was at Dun & Bradstreet. And then Matt pulled me into the contact center business, and it's been a journey ever since. And I moved to the answer. I came to Texas in 2000.
2000. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, basically, it took you 6 months, and then you went on this own kind of self-guided journey of trying to build trying to solve the next problem with some other, way, process, people, resources, and that's kind of that's what makes you an operator. I mean, that's why Jim, you and I get along so well, and Jason and Aarde, we're all operators, right? And we're all problem solvers. Same thing. It continues to be a pattern of my guests. I don't know. Maybe you guys need to start bringing on some guests because I obviously have patterns of people that I like to keep in my circle. That's awesome, man. Clearly coming from an agent, as a lot of us did, you grew into leadership, and now, you're technically, you changed your title. Isn't your title now the Chief Customer Officer at
It is.
Right?
I came up with that must have been 4 years ago before everybody was talking about CX because I just liked it. And now a bunch of people are following suit. And really what a chief customer officer does is not only handles the customers, by the way, but he's handling the entire customer experience strategy down to, like, I partner with our COO, and I spend time with her, teaching her and her teams how to deliver those experiences. And it's good to have a third party, right? Because we all know about, the hens watching the hen house. It's a different. So when you have a separation where that person is really talking strategy and talking, real life situations of what experience looks like, it makes it easier for people to adapt to it.
Yeah. Well, and we got into a little bit of the horizontal versus vertical silos last week the last episode. And that's what you're talking about, is really the CX leader over top, touching every piece of the organization, and really ensuring that the customer experience and journey are absolutely a part of every bit of strategy. Yeah, and basically, not to put words in your mouth.
No, absolutely. And just to add to it, it makes sense, because think about it. I ran ops, so I already know what they're dealing with. So when you're in ops, sometimes you're looking at the P&L, and you might not be able to realize what a customer effort decline could mean to your P&L, because you're looking at the sales numbers, you're looking at the sales per hour, you're looking at this, you're looking at survey results and all that kind of stuff. When you get somebody different who understands data and understands it does have an attributable ROI, and you could show them soft things that might not give you real money, but over time they will, right? Retention, stuff like that, right? You're trying to save the customer, but do you know how to save the customer? And do you know what benefits that are in? And that's where you get that operational expertise to help people, right? I mean, and that's the goal. How do you send a message to an agent who's used to somebody telling them, here's what you did wrong, I need more sales, but they don't tell you how to get there. So when you have somebody in an organization like us, we'll tell you who, what, why, where, when, and how to fix it. That's the holy grail, I think, in customer experience. Everybody wants to improve customer experience. And by the way, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, if you have an account leader who's been in the business for 10 years and doesn't know how to do it, do we really humbly think, as all of us are egotistical because we're all good at what we do, do we really believe that this guy who's been with us for 10 years is going to tell us he doesn't know? So there's an art in how to deliver messaging so that you're teaching them without telling them they don't know what they're doing. And that's another opportunity I see in the industry.
So learning and development was the last episode. I know it just came out a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw that, but completely, I think I can speak for all three of us, although these guys might have a comment or two. But yeah, without a doubt, learning and development and coaching and mentoring. And I mean, those are essential pieces, and not enough organizations focus on that. And I think we all made that pretty clear in our opinions last week, or in the last episode. I keep forgetting we recorded it and then we post it later after, all the magic is done. So guys, before we hop into the subject, I know we're all chomping at the bit. Jason, Aarde, anything about Jim's origin you guys want to hop in? I know I keep kind of, diving in over top.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to say, because I know Aarde has a lot more on this subject, because this isn't my wheelhouse, right? Learning and development's definitely, but I do really love the fact that Jim and all of us and the people on the show are more on the operator side, right? Like, we're the ones doing it and getting it done, not visionary leader who's like, hey, we should do things, and like, hey, go do things for me. But like, we know and speak from experience, being like, this is what it's like in the trenches or leading a team. And, I think that's valuable, especially for the audience that we're trying to talk to help them run their contact center, whatever that might look like. That it's, it's the operators that people want to learn from, not just some motivational hype person who read a book once and has been, been on stage for so long. When was the last time you ran a call center, right? Yep. Like, I have clients who, I actually have salespeople who'd be like, when was the last time you were on the phone? I was like, it's been a little while. It's like, well, let's get on the dialer and let's see what you can do. I'm like, okay. The loser's buying lunch. Let's go, right? And I think that's the key for all of us, is that we're all willing to go back to operating at any moment because we just enjoy it so much. So
absolutely,
I love that background, Jim.
Yeah, and I love the learn by doing attitude. Get your hands dirty first, figure out what works, what doesn't work, do a proof of concept, and then when it when it goes well, replicate it, make it easy. You can't photocopy humans, but you can photocopy a process, you can photocopy a technology, you can photocopy the way that you make something more efficient. And that's a science in itself. And if you think about it, and a lot of the viewers here are either in a contact center or run a contact center. Contact centers, at least on the customer service side, and probably a little bit on the sales side too, it's pretty repetitive. It's the same types of actions. Of course, you want to do some variation to get the attention of the person you're trying to sell to, and or save the customer by making it a little bit more personalized or giving them a better experience through that process. But all in all, 80% of what you're doing is kind of transactional and kind of turnkey, and you can train someone to do it. And once they get proficient enough in it, they can do it 40 hours a week pretty easily. I think where the secret sauce is, and Jim, this is where I love your origin story, is you took something that was very basic and turnkey, and your organization said, hey, go on site, here's $300. The more people you can talk to, and hopefully there's not a lot of traffic, so you can go knock on doors faster and more quantity-wise per day, the more sales we'll get. And instead you said, let me try to take that in-house, let me do some phone calls and see what our productivity is for that. And then you amplified it once it was successful and the proof of concept went forward. So the innovation there, anyone can do it. So anyone who's listening, who's in the contact center, who thinks, oh, I'll never own my own company, I'll never be in a director role, I'll never leapfrog 4 positions to director, think about that, because it is possible and it happens all the time.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say one thing I'll tell you is the risk taker. You got to be able to take risk. I think today's society, and I'm not knocking about society, I don't want to get in trouble for that one, but these younger kids they think that if you make a mistake, it's bad. You learn from your mistakes. Listen, not everything is a winner, but taking risk, like I feel myself, I took a lot of risk. As a matter of fact, I still have my awards. 2 times risk taker award, twice. So take risk, to what you're saying. And you know what? If it works, replicate it. If it doesn't, adjust and try again. Sorry about cutting you off, Fred.
No, it's perfect. I mean, in the end, it's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? I mean, in the end, I don't care if you're an agent, a supervisor, QA, team lead, VP. If you're not out there pushing the envelope, trying to get better, improve, taking risks, taking the opportunities to share your ideas, your insights. I mean, that's what I didn't get to where I'm at because I just sat quietly in the corner and did my job. That's not the way it works. I mean, and none of the guests are like that. We're the people that make it. I always find we're problem solvers and we're risk takers and we're willing to step out and make our voices heard. And if people don't listen, eventually we find people who will. And that's the reality. I mean, without a doubt, we're all ducks of the same feather. Is that the saying? Something about flocking together. Anyways, let's get on. I thought with bringing Jim on, it only made sense to talk about technology, right? And I was super jazzed about this because in particular, I know, Jim, you spent a lot of time in artificial intelligence, big data, as have I, as has Aarde and Jason. Is familiar from the sales perspective and how they leverage that technology. So really, first of all, I mean, many years ago, well over 10 years ago, the journals started talking about CX and omnichannel and all that stuff came. And we're not even fully deployed on that yet, right? But time passed, and I remember in 2013 was my first exposure to artificial intelligence and big data usage in contact centers. And I met a big data company out of Montreal. We worked together to build a supervised learning chatbot and took it out to our clients. And spent about 3 months having a ton of conversations and nobody bought. But from the point where I saw the possibilities of spidering networks and capturing structured and unstructured data, and really, the early stages of this, and AI goes a lot further back. I know, Jim, you've got a lot of data points on this stuff. After CX, after omni-channel, now into AI and pushing the boundaries, I think AI is a critical thing to talk about, because this hasn't been just the last 5 years of the journey. This is a long time. This stuff has been coming, and it's not new. It's just the models are changing, computing power is changing, costing is changing, and all the things are starting to get us to where we are today. So first of all, though, before we start with where we're at or where we're going, let's talk about where this has been. In particular, Jim, I want to talk about as a group, why did artificial intelligence have so many challenges early on? It was brought to market a long time ago, and we're still overcoming all those failures. So, Jim, give it to me. What do you think?
So I think the first thing, the easiest thing to say is, that's the nature of any technological advancement. There's always pain points. There's always slowness. That's why it's not adoptive. What our listeners might not know is technically the first AI machine came out was 1943, scientists in the Navy. It was called perception model. That's what it was called, and it mimicked neural structure of the human brain. So it's not like it's new. It's been out since 1943. But then to answer your question,
right.
I don't think that you got to actually understand that neural network until about 2005, and you could see what it did. And then when you look at the sequence of events that happened. So the advantage that I have, because in 2003 is when I built my first tech stack for Etech for the quality, and didn't have speech to text back then, right? And I built it because I didn't see anything in the market. But when you think about the sequence of development, the first tech that actually came to the contact center, and I think it's ironic because all these tech companies used to try and sell me all their things, they first came out with automated transcription. That actually hurt more than it helped, because the last thing you want to go do as an operator is go to an agent, let him see a transcript that's got 80% wrong, and tell them if they were doing something wrong, because they're going to argue with you all day long about a mistranscribed word. That's the problem. So the reputation of speech, it wasn't speech back then, transcriptions really got a bad hit, which is true because it wasn't that accurate. Back then, we weren't in stereo channels. You weren't in all this different technologies. And then when you think about what happened, that people are getting excited about it, it was the intro of the neural networks called natural language processing. Because the accuracy with natural language processing shows you that while the word is transcribed, it understands what you mean. And when you're doing that, you can actually calculate and predict outcomes. And that was really where speech to text, I felt, got really exciting for us. Because you all know in transcription, and I'll use a simple one, AT&T as a brand. There's not a transcription engine in the world that is transcribing that as AT&T. It comes across as 8, 80, 18, 8, right? So what happens is when you have those human beings that are programming and coding that natural language processing, we know that it says, thank you for calling, and it says 18, my name is, we know that you absolutely nailed the greeting. Greeting was perfect because we know when we see the word 8, 80, 18, and there's probably 17 other ones, after the words, thank you for calling, we know 99.9% you said AT&T. I mean, that's just one example of how powerful NLP is. And then when you think about where I get passionate, so a lot of people accuse me of yelling, but I'm very passionate about when I speak about these things because I love it so much. When you think about the tech and you realize the importance of where it's going to go, we saw most people, most, I don't want to say all, had tech people building this technology. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you take a company or a person or a group who has 200 years combined industry experience about what should be happening, That's what a lot of these tech companies are missing, because the technology is solving problems they think are problems without understanding what the true problems are. And I don't knock IT people because I love them and I have them in my organization, right? But when's the last time, and Jason talked about this, when's the last time an IT guy took a call, made a call, understands what we're selling? And this is the guy or guys or teams who they're supposed to give it to. A lot of people go sell to the tech companies, or the tech tries to sell to the tech people, and I think it's a bad idea not involving your ops guys. So then the next part of it, in my opinion, is when you really made speech analytics and text analytics, whatever you want to call it, contact center friendly. And I don't think anybody's done it yet. And by the way, I'm not knocking it because I use a bunch of different people. They all have 50 different dashboards. And they all tell me the frustration is 78%. And I always go back, that's information overload. I got 50 dashboards. It's like, I remember this one. It reminds me of the old Tootsie Roll commercial. Remember that one? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? How many clicks does it take for me to get my data? And in a dashboard area, it kills me because dashboards are cute. And that's what I call them. They're cute. But what you really need is human intelligence to take AI data, big data, velocity of data, and make it actionable that can actually optimize results. And I don't believe tech people understand how to do that. And again, maybe if they were in ops, they probably would. But I think between all of us, we're all ops guys. We can really configure and make things a little bit better. I mean, I'm focused on behaviors, right? Frustration is cute. Okay, yeah, I want to know that. But really what I know is what are the behaviors the agents are doing to reduce my customer sentiment? What am I building for my agents to give them practical applications to fix the behavior? That's the part I think that a lot of the tech companies are missing. And I do believe there's a shift because I do talk to a lot of them. A lot of them are my customers and I'm their customers. I think I've seen over the past 2 years a huge shift, realizing that operations is usually making the decisions and they're the ones that are going to be able to pay the bills, but they're only going to pay the bills if it can actually work. And I think we're seeing a big increase in that as well.
Yeah. Well, and so, I mean, let me kind of dissect some of that. I think, first of all, the reason why a lot of the projects failed, and we've seen it statistically, since even as late as, I think 2020 was the last report I saw put out. Frost and Sullivan, I think, did it, or Gartner. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. Nonetheless, it was something like 60% of all AI projects were failing because of either lack of resources or somehow, how I define it is over-promising and under-delivering a product or solutions, right? So, that's what in the end caused, I think, the black eye in artificial intelligence across the board in our industry to where people just don't trust it. Even though the statistics and data for the accuracy rates, the training models have all changed. Bottom line is, people still look at it as, do you remember when Watson charged you $1 million to do a POC and it wasn't even close to accurate? And I don't mean to pick on a certain 3-letter acronym company that owns that name that I just accidentally dropped. But, nonetheless, the reality was that it didn't live up to the promises. And that's been the case for a long time.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. I did a workshop before, and I gave everybody in the audience 6 steps, why they fail and how you not fail. And that's the problem. You got to bring things down. It's simple. First, strategize your goal, create an ROI. Don't focus on everything because everybody says, you're going to get everything. Man, pick 3. Listen, you haven't done anything with this data in 10 years. I mean, now you're going to get 1 million pieces of it. Pick 3 things that keeps you up at night. Start on those and then evolve and move. But I agree with you 100%. I think adoption, to your point, had a lot to do with it is the reason they failed. Nobody resources, know how to do it. 100% behind you.
Yeah. And I want to take it back a little bit to Fred, your kind of intro to this topic, where at least in the customer service contact center world, in the early 2000s, it was migration to the cloud. That was the hot topic. And then right after that, it was omni-channel, multi-channel, digital, emerging channels. That was kind of right after that, hot on its heels. Then hot on that heels was MPS, CSAT, QA, automation QA scorecards. That, that's when the like speech analytics world came into play, kind of. And I hate using the word speech analytics because it's way too vague. And to Jim's point earlier, it's not actually actionable until you put natural language processing on top of it. And then now we're into the age of AI, and we've been in that world for the last 6, 7, maybe 8 or 9 years in the contact center world. This is probably the longest dynasty of new tech that we've been in, and I think it's here to stay. One of the things that's unique about AI is that the tech has always been here, to Jim's point earlier, but no one knew how to market it, and no one knew how to use it to solve business problems. It was more of a, we found this gold mine of gold. We have no idea how to productize it, how to melt it down so that it can be used for whatever gold should be used for, until we started to hyper focus on, and this is more kind of accessibility for the suppliers and vendors. They had accessibility into some pretty cool, amazing tools. I won't name drop, but 3-letter acronyms or companies that own major data centers around the world now have the ability to give us not only access to large amounts of data, but also the ability to transcribe or pass over data to and from via APIs in like massive quantities, larger than humans can comprehend, almost like petabytes and terabytes. Once we got there, now these smaller companies can leverage that gold mine and take that raw gold they took out of the earth and make something that's beautiful and useful to the end user. So I think it was an evolution of, we had to get there, to our refining tools were not there. And then now that they're here, you're seeing all these like million different products that are labeled either as AI or have AI engines behind them that are very, very unique and specific to a use case.
I want to give Jason a chance to talk about it in sales, but I want to come back to that because specifically the statement of we are an AI-powered technology. I want to talk about that, so don't let me
don't forget that. We have tons of stories for that one.
Absolutely. So Jason, sales, in sales organizations, AI, when it first came out, I remember companies talking about we could generate leads for you with AI without a person on the phone. I mean, tell me, what did you see, man?
Yeah, there's so many like AI kind of like AI offerings where it's really not AI. Maybe it's machine learning, but it's not actual artificial intelligence, which is, I think, the biggest thing. Kind of people just put that sticker and label on everything. There's some technologies out there which seem like it's machine learning and seems like it's AI, but it's actually not. It's just manual behind the scenes, but it's done kind of behind the scenes and automatic. For example, there is a lead generation strategy which doesn't involve people on the phone, where somebody will cold call or call a lead who requested information, and it's a set of pre-recorded clips that somebody is sitting, usually offshore, manning a keyboard, like almost like a musical keyboard, like a piano, and they're hitting keys based on how they want to have the conversation go. So they're basically like doing it. So instead of them being on the phone, they're just playing the part of queuing those things up. And, sometimes that's pitched as AI. And I think it's just one of those things where that technology is just not there and isn't good enough. And some that is can only get to a certain point, because when you're dealing with a messy, scared, confused human who doesn't know what the right choice is to make, and they're looking for help to buy something, like how advanced does AI need to be to pick up on all the things that it takes to be successful? And it's just not there at scale. I mean, I think the biggest value of AI-ish, machine learning-ish, is really like the conversation about transcripts and call recordings and giving that feedback, which is still really tough because sentiment and analysis is so difficult, and humans are messy. English is challenging. And it's like, all right, what's actually useful and how far will it help you versus when do you have to step in?
Yeah, and think about the AI.
So
Think about the AI. I want to remind you guys, and I agree with you, Jason, with AI, everybody's talking about it because it's the hot button, but we're all old school. You remember 10 years ago, what was the big word? Big data. That was the word. Big data. Then they moved it to AI. Now everybody is using AI. I apologize for regressing. Go ahead, Fred.
Oh, don't apologize, man. I mean, that's why we're here.
I think it's
to have
so
a
funny
conversation,
because these people do key on those words, man. And you know this already. Last time I went to a show, I want to say 78% of all the booths I had AI in their booth. I mean, literally, they changed the company name, AI, powered by AI. Everything's AI.
Oh yeah, .ai. I mean, come on, now you got the URL string.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But let's talk about that. So let's talk about that, because I think I've talked to a lot of clients, a lot of partners, a lot of people use that term, artificial intelligence, and the audience. I mean, most of these people. I mean, you know what it's like as an operator. You've got 20 million fires out on your floor that you've got to put out. And you're supposed to know and understand the difference between NLU, NLP, machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence. What does it really mean? Do these companies? So first of all, I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to AI. And we've already kind of touched on it. Is I think a lot of companies out there, they're just using it as clickbait. And we've all seen examples of this. And, I mean, in the end, if you are not using a system that's learning and training based upon data, then you're really not using artificial intelligence. Now, the NLU and NLPs that are plugged into a lot of these voice systems aren't even often the technology company's tech. And that's okay, because there are some tremendous companies out there spending billions of dollars to improve these NLU, NLP engines by just fractions of a percentage, right? It's nothing wrong with using someone else's NLP, NLU. That's okay. But that does not mean that your system itself is based on AI or machine learning or anything beyond the NLP, NLU engines. And there are plenty of examples. So, I mean, is that... when is truth in advertising going to come to this space is what I want to say.
Well, I got truth in advertising today. I wish I should have deleted it. It literally came across, Dear F, what is his name? Boom. And they gave me the sales pitch. That was truthful. It was a bot. It wasn't programmed right.
So Fred,
I've been F name, first name.
It lit Dear F name, and it had the bracket, which you're supposed to be pulling in the data. So this person obviously sent that out to a bunch of people, but I was impressed. I was truthful for a change. I knew right then it was a bot. I knew it was automated. I knew it wasn't a real person. I thought that was truthful, because surely none of us would ever send an email out with Dear F name.
You know what, Jim? That is how I'm going to start all of the emails to you from now on.
Sounds like a good click rate.
You've done it. I mean, that's it.
So, Fred, to answer your question a little bit, I like the companies that are a little bit more truthful, and they use the word assistant. Although it could be a virtual assistant, agent assistant, customer assistant. So instead of a chat bot, customer assistant, digital assistant. There's even quality monitoring assistant. So instead of like speech analytics, they use those terms. Not a lot of companies are using that, but I like the word assistant because it's telling you it's technology that's assisting you with whatever the process is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be AI, and it doesn't necessarily have to be anything beyond just machine learning, because some actions and some tasks, you don't need crazy AI behind it. You just need something I love Jason's analogy of the keyboard. I'm going to piggyback on that just really quick while I got the mic. Some of the things that are transactional, the things that have a natural progression, that's okay if it's a keyboard, because you're just playing a song. Like someone going to Spotify wants to hear a song. They don't want a remix. They don't want like custom notes. They just want like the song. Like if I want a password reset, like I don't want to talk to a human. I just want to go through the motions. But if I want to like cancel my account and get a refund, I want a custom song. I want a custom experience that isn't just standard keyboard strokes. So, just something to think about.
Okay, so
Yep, absolutely.
You're transitioning us right into the next section. So we've talked about what happened before. I think we're all in agreement. There was over promises. There were too high of expectations, whether it was on the customer side or the vendor side, doesn't really matter. There wasn't enough resources. People didn't understand how to make AI work, right? Or what it even meant, right? So that leads us right into today, Aarde. So I was going to tee this one up for you anyway, so keep going. Where do you see the actual use cases that are effective today with artificial intelligence, in the contact center space?
Who wants to jump in? I've got plenty, but I feel like I'm hogging the mic. Jim, what are your
No,
thoughts?
I'll do the one
That's
on the chat.
all you, Aarde.
Yeah, Aarde, by all means, you can start us off. I'll throw in. I got a couple comments on the AI bots, but I'm sure you already hit it. So you go ahead and start us.
Yeah, so when I think of customer experience and technology, I think of the core. The core is what's needed for routing of calls or chats or emails or digital, allowing the agent to be able to be informed while they're on a call. And that can be very manual in the sense that they're Googling something or looking through a knowledge base manually. And then on the fringe, on the outside, would be data analytics, big data, kind of what Jim was talking about. Like, how did the agent perform? How is the customer experience? Were there negative words said or phrases said? What's the sentiment analysis? Those types of things on the fringe. So when I'm thinking core use cases, there's probably about 4 or 5 areas that have been refined over the years for customer experience. And those are things like intelligent routing, agent assist for knowledge bases for agents, onboarding and training. I know we went into that in depth in episode 3 last week. And then on the fringe, you've got your chat bots, voice bots, you've got your big data, structuring of data, reporting and KPIs to see performance. Some of that's speech analytics, some of that's just performance metrics. So it's kind of all over the place, and I don't think there's a company that's good at all. I think lots of different companies are good at some, if not one. But that's where we're at today. I think in the future, it's going to be even more refined. You see all of these, I won't say company names, but you see all of these natural language speech analytics tools that are really good at upsell, cross-sell, or really good at like just transactional sales. They're starting to become more niche and more niche, which is amazing.
Yeah, well, hold the future because we're focused on right now. So, Jim, I see you chomping at the bit. Jason's leaning into the mic too. He's like, "Is it my turn?"
No, it's. I already hit them all up really good. I mean, here's the one thing I'll tell you. I got a lot. We as a company have a lot of experience with the bots, the intelligent IVRs, agent assist. Where I go back to it. Not everybody. I'll be like Aarde. I'll be nice to my technology partners. Most of them don't know how to program them correctly. And when I talk about big data, here's the holy grail. So what we've done, because we do program a lot of these bots, I'm taking speech analytics, I'm taking big data. I'm not listening to the guy in marketing telling me these are the top 10 things people ask. I'm literally using real data. And then when you know the real data, you can make that bot be sweet because you make that bot like the human interactions. If you're looking at, think about it. It's historical data. They already have it. Take the data, apply it, right? And then use that to make your framework. And you'll notice that it works. Like one of my customers, we had their intelligent IVR hitting at about 70% in 30 days. Which is huge for them because they were ready to shut it down because they couldn't handle it, right? But just by using the historical data and the call recordings and the big data, you can actually program these IVRs if you get, again, one of us, the operation guys who know it. That's how you have to do it. And I'm no techie, by the way. I mean, I'm just smart from the operational side, but if you can actually communicate with a tech guy to tell him what you're trying to accomplish, that's how you do it. That's my opinion on them. And it goes the same, agent assist, all of them. They're all the same. They all need to, and again, we talked about it earlier. This is not Ron Popeil's rotisserie. It is not take this technology, set it, and forget it. It is not that's not how it works. Jason, sorry, go ahead.
What are you seeing?
No, that's good. And I love what you said already about it's about assist, right? So it's not about doing it all for you. And of course, Jim's point, I love that, right? It's not set or forget it. So many people buy any technology or anything and think that you just buy it and then let it go. I see that as one of the biggest failures for most tech sales and onboarding is that customers don't understand what it takes and they think, oh, I bought this and so now I'm good, right? Like I just set it down and move forward. And it's way more than that. And I think to your point too about the technical side and technicians, the programmers and whatnot, I've battled that in many different industries in my life and my crazy windy path that I've had that doesn't include call centers either, which is where they're building it based on the way their brains work without the experience in the real world versus what it actually takes. I know when I worked at Microsoft, they had a position called technical account manager, which was the liaison between a corporate customer and the wizards behind the curtain. And that they basically was translating back and forth to ensure that people were getting what they need. And that's really what it takes, right? It's that whole combination to address this issue of, all right, how do we use tools, right? Not just buy a tool, put it in the garage. I bought a chainsaw, so that's cool. Now I have a chainsaw. It's like, all right, how do I actually use this thing?
Yeah. I think piggybacking a little bit off of Jason and Jim here, it's instead of the set it and forget it, treat it like it's an employee. So you would never hire an employee, lock them into a closet, give them a computer and a headset and say, hey, just go, I'll check in on you 5 years from now. Like that would be absolutely horrible.
Not anymore. HR frowns upon that.
I was going to say the same thing. We wouldn't do that actually, but I bet you there are people
I haven't done that in years. No.
The same thing with your technology.
Yeah, I think we had a conversation with Dan, and he got handed a phone and a phone book last night. I mean, that stuff happens. But I get it, right? I mean, treat the technology. I like that. I've never heard anybody say that. I've always been a big believer in the sales engineers is what I always refer them to. It's the people who understand the customer problems and the business and the technology and understand how to bring those together and actually turn them into something that's actionable, usable.
One of the things.
So, Jason, were you done? I just want to make sure Jason got his chance to talk about what's working in the sales side on AI today.
The biggest thing is that I see working is it's two main tools that I am really enjoying these days. Is one that's taking calls and recordings and really doing that piece with the transcription, the NLP, and really turning that into usable data, right? Because one of the things, and this is what I tell my clients, is if you have a team of people on the phone, let's take sales in particular, no matter how many people you have, by lunch on the very first day, you've already lost as a manager because you have so many calls that you no longer can listen to, right? Like you have an overwhelming amount of data that you've instantly lost without technology helping you. And I think it's using technology to say, here's how much my reps were talking versus not talking. Here's how many times the conversation went back and forth versus monologues. Here's the tone. There's really cool applications now where it's literally listening live and prompting that, like somebody asks a question, it's prompting on the screen, telling that agent what they can say in response in real time and giving them options on the screen. Like that's amazing. Sentiment, telling them when they're too loud or they're sounding upset, right? Maybe the customer's sounding upset. Like I think that stuff is amazing. As a technology. And then the other part where AI, machine learning is really powerful is more on the marketing lead generation side, which is, all right, so here's all the leads that are coming in. Here's what the team is good at closing. Here's what this individual is good at closing, right? It might not just be people like me, but as like, I really resonate with this kind of person. And then the system's feeding those leads and routing them like a subway terminal to the best people who have the best chance at performing. And doing that all behind the scenes where everyone's they just pick up the phone and do what they do best. And they don't understand behind the scenes, they're being teed up, underhand slow pitch for the benefit of everyone, including the customer.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys pretty much hit them all, right? I think the one thing that I would say that I see that is probably producing the best ROI is actually the data side. And you kind of touched on it, but it's analyzing and understanding from a sales and marketing, its ideal client profile, its matching profiles to individuals like you talked about, Jason. On the analytics side, it's really understanding not just what the customers are saying, but like you said, Jim, I mean, it's taking that data, gathering it from all different types of sources, and then coming back and giving you actionable feedback of, hey, this product to this customer segment is having these problems, look into this data. It doesn't mean that it's answering the question of what's really it's giving you a flag to say, hey, you need to look at this criteria in this segment of data. Out of the billions of terabytes, this little segment is where you need to focus your efforts right now. That's the stuff that the NLP, NLU engines, the data mining, and the machine learning engines, and all the improvements that we've seen in speed. That's the stuff that adds value. And then there's little nuanced stuff. I mean, Aarde, you touched on it, and we had it last week. Training technology that's doing a lot of that analytics too, except in a simulated environment. I mean, that stuff has immediate ROIs. I mean, there's all kinds of cool tech out there, but I mean, I think when it comes to artificial intelligence today, I really see it as finally it is truly deliverable and ready for prime time at almost every segment. But the one thing that I have started to see that I really like, and this isn't to do with AI, this is to do with how companies actually present it. And this comes back to the truth in advertising statement. I was on a website the other day, and they actually gave me an option between talking to a live agent or talking to a self-service bot. And I thought that was interesting and important for them to define, because when I want self-service, I don't want to talk to a human, which is about 90% of the time. But that 10%, I want to get to a human. And I think businesses are starting to recognize, artificial intelligence and bots and all this stuff can help reduce, simple problems going to the contact center, hence reduce costs. But, the customer experience is still the most crucial thing. Agreed. And in the end, if you provide the customer with their own option, I think when they know that they want a bot, they'll talk to the bot happily. And they'll be glad that they got the answer they needed right away. But if they feel like they need to talk to a customer service rep, then they, let them. I mean,
as long as that experience, and I think this is so important, is focused on the customer and their experience, even the prospective customer and their experience, because I'm okay. Like, to your point, I'm okay when I know it's a bot. Like, this is better than a person because I think I can handle it. When that bot is an effing idiot and it makes me mad, then that's when I really lose it. Like, I had to call a company like last week, and I literally using language that's not appropriate for this podcast at the bot, because the bot is so dumb. And that's when technology's broken, when it can't be like, oh, you want an agent. Oh, okay. So tell me about what you want the agent for. No, I want the agent. Okay. To help you get to an agent, what is it that you want?
I hate that one.
Agent. And so, like, that's where it's so important, right? Is technology, like you said, to the point of where, okay, now I want a person, because some matters need to be dealt with another human who can understand the complexities, but you have to make that transition effortless for me, which is agent. Okay, stand by, hold on, here you go. And then now I'm there.
Yep.
People forget
that bot. That
ahead,
bot
Aarde.
prison or chatbot prison, IVR prison, you gotta let people out of it. And then when you recognize someone's preferences, don't offer the chatbot the second time they log in. Like, that person hates that experience, or voice bot or whatever it is. Like, mark them off. It's almost like unsubscribing to an email. Like, if they hate your products and hate your email marketing, let them unsubscribe.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so we've covered the past, the present. Now let's talk about the future. So Hey, Jason, you got to start us on this one because we've been leaving you to last, and I want to hear, what do you see in your world as the future? Let's call it 5 years, because I think honestly, predicting anything beyond 5 years, it's a fool's
hopefully
game,
we're all retired
right?
after
I
that.
mean, well, I mean, you will be, clearly. I mean, the rest of us will still be working,
Well,
but Jim will be retired.
and what I'll say is I am not that great at prophecy, especially when it comes to technology. I'm generally a late bloomer. But I think where the technology needs to go is that transition from somebody raising their hand online and then automation in the omni-channel and AI, meeting that person where they're at and then moving them through, especially in a considered purchase, into a phone call, right? So it's the chat, it's the SMS, it's all of that being done by AI together with the goal in mind, not to sell them over SMS, but to move them forward at the rate and at the pace and where they want to be met, like we were just talking about with chatbots and things like that. So I think that's the big key. And I think more and more, at a certain point, the AI and the technology can't do anything more for a sales conversation, because you in the moment you have to be doing. It's like playing a game, right? Like if you're a football player and you're a professional, you can't watch footage during the game. Like while you're in the game, you're in the game. You've got to actually know what you're doing. But I think it's the speed to competency. I think it's the tools, like I was talking about, where on the screen it's telling someone what they could say in response to objections. It's helping them get to proficiency as quickly as possible, and then breaking down that game footage, especially for management and leadership, to optimize everything. I think, like I was talking about with that data and where things come in, which is, all right, so Bob does well with this kind of persona, this kind of demographic, this kind of psychographic. How do we use all the global data that's out there, enhance data, and then feed, when somebody comes in, let's get them to Bob, or let's get this person to Julie. And then again, for everyone's sake, when you do that, really what you're trying to do, in my vision, is the technology should just be all around that salesperson so they can do what they need to do still, which is have a conversation with another messy, scared, confused human. I don't think technology will ever fully replace that for any complicated sales. And you still need people, but you want to take away everything outside of them just having that conversation and focusing.
Yeah, so you see the sales enablement, the human enablement technology, that's the advancements that you're most excited about for your sale. I mean, you're a sales consultant.
100%.
I mean,
and the stuff that I would like to see, and I don't know if it's out there, so this might be my ignorance, and maybe it's there and I just don't know it. But I think really the next big thing that would be amazing to have from a sales operation, sales leadership standpoint, is something that's listening to my phone call. I'm talking to Jim, and Jim is my prospective customer, and the technology is going through the transcript, and then it's updating the CRM for me, and it's making notes that are appropriate. It's setting the follow-up call. It's doing all of that, because that is the Achilles heel of every sales organization, is the fact that no matter what CRM you sell a company, nobody's using it.
That
right?
stuff
It
was almost there.
matter.
You'll be happy to know. I mean, 90% of what you just said is there.
Oh, Jason,
cool. That would be the key, because once you do that, then literally your sales reps can literally sit back with their feet up and just talk to people, and you don't have to rely on them to do anything beyond.
You mean, Jason, you've never been to a meeting where they said, "Hey, did you update the notes in Salesforce? And what stage is this opportunity in?" I mean, I feel like that's like 80% of a sales rep's job is answering those two questions.
And here's the interesting thing is that if they're really good at sales, they're probably not the kind of person who updates the CRM.
Exactly.
If they're really good at updating the CRM, they're most likely not very good at sales, because they're doing that instead of actually talking to people. And so, like, you need that technology. So I'm super excited, Jim. I want to know about this.
I'll let you play with it for a little bit.
Yeah,
we got some good case studies on that stuff. I'm happy to show.
All right, cool.
It's not 100% accurate yet, but it's pretty good.
That's all right. Neither are humans, so we'll take it.
There's big tech working on that too, Jason, just so you know. I mean, Salesforce launched Einstein a couple of years ago, and the whole concept was to get to that stage. The problem with the big tech companies is I think Amazon's probably the unusual one out of that bunch because they build their teams in small groups, and they have the one pizza rule for teams, and the way that the philosophies in which they run are closer to agile. But nonetheless, big tech's working on it, but I think it'll be companies smaller, agile, more aware, more down in the ground, with the people that are going to solve that problem, and then they'll get bought by the bigger companies. So it'll end up being a big logo anyways. So, all right. So, Aarde, we'll come to Jim last, but Aarde, future, what do you see?
I'm going to use an analogy here. Future of call center, contact center. The majority of the contact centers out there are inbound, but some of them are outbound, and this can kind of help support that as well. But the way that I think of a call center, it's like you oversee a city and you allow transportation to go on your roads. There are cars, there's bikes, there's scooters, there's motorcycles, and then you've got these emergency vehicles like ambulances, cop cars, fire trucks that need to cut through all the noise. Like they need all the traffic lights to change for them. They need to have sirens on so they can go straight to the to the source as quick as humanly possible. But when you're archetyping this, you also need to make sure that that bike messenger that needs to get that really important package from point A to point B also has a high priority. Maybe not as high as a police officer or fire truck, and maybe not as low as someone who's just leisurely walking through the day or leisurely driving through the day, getting from point A to point B for leisure. The same thing with contact centers, and AI is going to help leverage this a ton. It already is out there. It's called bullseye routing, but I think it's going to get better and better in the sense that, and kind of piggybacking off of what Jason said earlier, when someone calls in, chats in, whatever, knowing exactly who that person is, where they live, what their dialect is, what their buying patterns are, just accessing big data, which could be in your data source or in a data lake that's larger or open sourced out to the public, getting that information and then routing them. The two important things here is routing them in priority compared to everyone else who's being routed at the same time. So someone who is a high dollar value can be top priority. But if, for the police example or ambulance example, if you need a client care situation, that may go higher than that priority. If they call even like 2 minutes later and that person who was in the, at the top of the queue may be bumped down a little bit or maybe routed to a different type of person. And then also to Jason's point, it's routing to the right type of person. So, Bob in client care can be great at client care situations, maybe absolutely horrible about admin things like how do I reset my password? What can I change the email address that I have on file? He may be all thumbs in that world, but he can be like the best conversational person, the best person to save, the person to prevent the client from attriting. So lots of different areas, touch on lots of different topics, but I would say very similar to the sales side. It's getting the right person to the right person and in the right speed or priority.
Okay, so just for clarification, you see this actually becoming deployed within the next 5 years, and I'm not going to talk about scale or, depth in the industry, right? Because I actually want to touch on that. But you think 5 years, that type of technology will be readily available for any enterprise?
I think so. And I think what it'll be packaged as is the complete customer experience. Because you are literally taking an individual customer and giving them the exact experience that the AI world will architect for them.
Okay. All right, Jim.
So I agree with what everybody said, so I won't bore them with all the stuff they've already hit. I'll hit on a couple things I think's going to be cool. I think you're going to start seeing intelligent augmentation using action engines. Like we talked about Agent Assist. Really, if you want to excite me, actually take the workflow and automatically take all the stuff everybody's talking about back and forth and putting it into those programs like we talked about it, right? Don't make the rep go into 50 different screens because the telco company bought out 10 other telco companies, and based on their zip code, their location, they have to find the application. Number 2, which we're already testing, accent neutralization in real time. It's amazing. So we, Etech, have been using this for about a year and a half. It's amazing, and I think it's only going to get better as we continue, because if you want to impact that experience, some people have reservations about talking to people who may not, or who may have an accent. The other one is the real-time prediction I think we're going to see in the next 5 years, if the customer is going to churn or not, real time, not after the fact, right? And I also think you're going to be able to predict how much they'll spend based on previous purchases they had. I think that's going to be, and this is all actionable stuff. I think that, Aarde's right. I actually, I'm the same thing I said. I think you'll be able to prioritize your customer based on spend, actually, and who should get called first. I agree 100%. Because if I'm spending X amount of money, my call should be going in front of everybody else. And I think the last one I'll say, because I have a personal experience with this one. So my refrigerator recently was having issues. My wife, my kids, everybody's telling me something wrong with my refrigerator. Of course, Dad goes, presses the button, and temperature's right, nothing wrong with it. I say, you guys are all crazy, so it breaks, of course. You want to impress me? Really, what should have happened was, if you want to use Internet of Things, before it actually got to me, to my wife and all these people, that fridge should have sent a signal out to the guy to tell me your refrigerator's about to go. I'm going to schedule you a call. There's my holy grail for the day. And last but not least, I will end with this. We're 15 years away from a virtual CX. So all you people think AI is replacing your jobs, it's the biggest lie in the industry. Okay, it actually needs more jobs, more skills. So my coaching to you young ones, read an article a day. You'll become a master. AI needs human beings. We need thought leaders. And again, read an article a day, self-learn, and you will be an awesome leader someday.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of what you said, I agree will be available within 5 years. But I know we're over time, but I think this is an important piece of the conversation. In 5 years, I don't see us deploying these technologies at any significant percentage. And here's the reason why. And I'll challenge the industry, and I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But continuously, we see data, and we walk into centers and talk to clients that are running 20-year-old technology still for their contact center. Their CEO and their board's talking about CX is our priority, but they haven't even digitally transformed or created a true omni-channel environment. They don't even have all their data normalized yet so that they can use it accurately. So, I mean, I say in 5 years, yeah, there's going to be all kinds of cool tech available, but we're still going to be solving the same problems today unless something changes from the C-level down in really understanding that the CX talking points that they're talking about in the journal means that they actually have to invest in their contact center. And for those people that are listening, I wholeheartedly believe this, and there are exceptions to this rule, but I think for the majority, I would say that we're a long ways away. And I don't think 5 years, I think the one thing that 5 years will give us is we'll actually flip the percentages of cloud-based users versus premise-based. That's what I believe. So let's get there first, before we can even really at scale deploy any of that stuff. But you're right. I think you guys all nailed them all. I think the only one that no one really touched on was big data, but it kind of, some of the things that everybody talked about does touch big data. But I do see solutions coming that are actually solving and analyzing large amounts of data to recognize those trends and patterns that are sometimes disconnected tables. And the normalization process will get faster and stuff like that. But those all feed what you guys are talking about, which is the technology that'll change the experience for both the agent and the customer, right? Which is critical. So what do you guys think? I mean, am I crazy?
No, I
don't think you're crazy. I think some people will be disruptors. Just remember, I mean, when you got to look at some of these, there are some disruptor companies up there that will take this challenge and do it. While everybody might not follow, there will be a few disruptors out there. Remember who took down the taxi cab industry?
Yeah, I think, Fred, I don't think you're crazy. I think there is an adoption curve, and we're just barely getting out of the early adopters into the kind of middle, just from on-prem to cloud migration, let alone all the AI and all the other stuff. But one of the cool things that I see that's happening in the market is the cloud providers that the people are migrating off of on-prem to cloud. The AI is already built into the module, and it's either free or you can just turn it on for a small price. So there isn't as heavy of a lift for the people who migrated yesterday as there was maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's fair. That takes us into a whole nother conversation about, what does a technology company landscape look like? And you guys know I've got an opinion on that. But we won't get into that today. We're way over time. Jason, what do you think? You think I'm right? You think I'm crazy, talking to the wrong people?
I think you're crazy right. Is that political enough?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we'd all have to agree. There's got to be a bit of crazy here.
There's got to be. Like Jim said, it's the innovators out there, and I think all these things are right on the edge, right? I mean, I think what's interesting is I'm like, here's what I would like, and here's what I hope comes up, and Jim's like, yeah, we got that. Yeah, Fred's like, oh yeah, that's coming soon. Oh yeah, that's just imagine what's out there that's being created that we don't even know about, that's in the basement or in a garage somewhere, and like what's coming by some people who haven't launched it yet. It's got to be right there, right?
Yeah, and I think before I leave you all, I want to say, first of all, thank you, Jim.
Thank you for having
Jason, Aarde. This has been an awesome conversation. For all the people watching, if you're still here watching, I know it's over an hour. I apologize, but this conversation couldn't be cut any shorter. I suppose it could have. I mean, we're all kind of a little bit of talkers. But nonetheless, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching another Origins and Journeys. And I want to leave you with this. Remember, all of us in this room still believe people, processes, and technology. Just because we talked about AI doesn't mean that we don't still believe that you need all three pillars in order to be an effective organization. So anyways, we appreciate you guys. Thank you all. And we'll see you in 2 weeks with another episode of Origins and Journeys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.